Thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar. We're going to give it maybe about another minute or so. It looks like a few people are still joining. So once it looks like that has slowed down, we will go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here this morning. Today's webinar is on turning exposure into engagement. So we're going to touch on sponsorships and farm shows and how to get the most out of those beyond just the initial sponsorship or farm show. I have here with me this morning Chelsea and Arturo. I will let them introduce themselves a little bit more. But before we get started, I am Kira Sorensen. I am the account director here at AGCO Direct. So I work closely with all of our account managers as well as AGCO to make sure that we are helping support you dealers the best that we can. Also, before we get started, I just wanted to give you all a quick reminder that we do have the invite open right now for our annual dealer summit. This year's dealer summit is going to be bigger than it has been the past few years. We are inviting up to 65 dealers to attend over the span of 3 days. You all should have received an invite for that, but while they're presenting, I will also drop the registration link in the chat for you all if that is something you're interested in attending. We are capping it at one person per dealership. And over those 3 days, you will be able to choose if you want to come Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday's content will be a replication of each other. So if you can't attend Tuesday, you're more than welcome to join us Thursday. And then Wednesday will be the full group where we will have all 65 dealers together. So we're really excited for that. It will be hosted here in Fargo, North Dakota. I'm excited to see everybody that is able to come and join us. We'll also have representatives from both Massey Ferguson and Fendt at that conference. So it should be some really good content for all of you marketers at the dealership. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's webinar. I will turn it over to Chelsea to introduce herself, and then Arturo, if you want to introduce yourself as well, then we'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chelsea Stoa, and I am a social media and public relations lead for our channel and AGCO Direct team here at Flint Group. So I am kind of your go-to for all social media and public relations strategies.
Hello, everyone. My name is Arturo Saavedra. I'm the Senior Marketing Automation Specialist here at Flint Group. I'm your guy for everything trigger marketing when it comes to email and SMS.
Awesome. Great. Thank you both. We're excited to have you both joining us. Chelsea, do you want to go ahead and dive on into your content?
Yes, absolutely. So today, like Kira said, we're going to talk through maximizing your sponsorships at farm shows and kind of beyond. So just want to start by talking about kind of why this matters more broadly, rather than just kind of, thinking about logos on a back of a T-ball t-shirt or a sign or a flyer. So when sponsorships and partnerships are done right, they are really relationship building tools. So they can help you show up where your customers are. We're thinking like farm shows, county fairs, demo days, and even in classrooms through organizations like FFA, 4-H, or even your local college. So thinking about this more broadly rather than just, really tactical. So people really remember who support their community. And so when that support feels authentic, it can build trust and actually lead to direct sales. So as we all know, in ag, sponsorships and trust in relationships are super important because people are going to buy from those that they trust. So the more that you are present in these types of areas and opportunities, the better you're going to be and the better your ROI is. Sponsorships also help you kind of stand out in a crowded market. So if someone's choosing between two dealerships, they're going to look at the one who sponsored their kids' tractor pull, or the one who, sponsored the T-ball game, or the one who drug the field at their local baseball tournament. So they're going to look at those types of things and feel more connected to you in that aspect, rather than the one who's just kind of sitting back and waiting for people to come through the door. Okay, next we'll hop into why sponsorships matter. So like I said, in the ag equipment world, people really buy from who they know and trust. So as we know, those relationships can go generation over generation. And so the more that you are present and the more that you build those relationships in your local community, the better you're going to be. So sponsorships really are able to kind of create face time and local name recognition. So if you are sponsoring things like at a local egg show, or like I said, demo days, and you have your sales guys out there, they're going to be able to actually build those relationships in real time. Having your customers be able to test drive equipment and things like that. When you have those customers facing people at those types of events, they're going to be able to build those relationships in real time. So consistent presence at events really reinforces your credibility and stability within the community. If people see your name at the county fair, the FFA banquet, or even, like I said, the demo days, you're not just a dealership, you're part of the community, which again helps with your sales, helps with brand association, helps with trust, and it also allows you to support your customers beyond the transaction. So, when we look at kind of statistics and analytics from where people are buying and how they're buying, you're able to get lead generation at events. So especially thinking farm shows, nowadays, a lot of them have badges where you can kind of scan and get people's information directly from there, which then helps you follow up and connect with that customer after the show as well. So sponsorships and partnerships are a really easy thing to do because you already have your target audience right there. So, you're not going into some random event and just hoping that 10% of the people are looking, are farming or looking to buy a tractor, things like that, or a piece of equipment. That when people are at a farm show, that's what they're looking to do. So your target audience is already right in front of you, and it helps you kind of stay competitive and relevant in your industry. So next up, we'll kind of look at sponsorship types. So we have the traditional sponsorships, which again are events and shows. So looking at sponsoring farm shows, equipment expos, demo days, county fairs, branded materials such as hats, shirts, banners, again, sponsoring that local T-ball team or baseball team, those types of things. Those are really the traditional type of sponsorship that we look at to build off of. When you are looking at branded materials for those types of shows, we're looking really at kind of hats, shirts, signage, tchotchke giveaways. So if you're, at a farm show and you're giving away maybe a can opener or a bottle opener, or maybe you're giving away, a keychain or things like that, but branding those materials at those events to, again, just kind of keep your dealership and your people top of mind when people are looking to purchase a piece of equipment. Excuse me. Next up, we'll look at kind of digital and media partnerships. So those really are kind of your radio, your podcast sponsorships, looking at, partnering with podcasts. So if there's a podcast that your customers already listen to, maybe you get on there and speak specifically about, seasonality or what your equipment can do in the season, or your your support team, things like that. So looking at those types of things to really already meet your customers where they are. They also have local print and TV ads, and our team can also do these. So really looking at branded features, spotlight stories on your customers or the work that you're doing in a community. I know we have a couple dealerships that do big toy drives during the Christmas season. So looking at things like that, and then maybe partnering with your local, TV entity to kind of really amplify that coverage. So you're not specifically asking people to come to your dealership and buy a piece of equipment, but that's, again, building that local trust and visibility within your community. We also have online content collaborations. So if you're looking to kind of do walk around videos with maybe your sales guys, maybe you're looking to kind of co-create videos with influencers, things like that. Those are the types of things that we look at when we look at digital and media partnerships. And we'll get into influencer realm here in a little bit as well. But just kind of starting out with the egg influencer collaborations. Maybe you look at partnering with a regional egg influencer and giving them some hours on a piece of equipment and having them post, excuse me, on social media X amount of times for X amount of weeks. And then you're also reaching their target audience or their audience and their followers to kind of, again, amplify your coverage. Like I said, you letting the influencers kind of demo your equipment and then also kind of placing your salespeople and kind of the, the service people, the people who are going to be really client facing or customer facing at your dealership, having them create some content. So whether that be, just a smiling, friendly face in photos to post on social media, whether that be walk around videos with new features on different pieces of equipment, but utilizing and leveraging those people so that, again, you're amplifying kind of amplifying their faces and letting people kind of connect with them on social media, as well as, within your dealership, they're going to come in and feel confident when they see those faces again. And then we also have the community and cause-based sponsorships. So these are things like, school programs, food drives, safety clinics. We have some dealerships who partner with local colleges to put on kind of, the safety clinics to let students come in and test drive different pieces of equipment so that they go home and they tell, their dads and their grandpas, I was on this piece of AGCO equipment. I think it'd be really great for our farm. So those are types of things when you look at these sponsorships and partnerships that are really, really beneficial and an easy thing to do. And then lastly, support for disaster recovery or local relief efforts. So we all know about the flooding in Texas that has happened recently. So maybe your dealership, if you're, located in that area, you either send out a team to help kind of, volunteer and help out there, or maybe you donate some pieces of equipment to help kind of clean up the area as well. So easy things like that don't take a lot of lift, but it's going to be able to amplify your coverage and then also allow you to get into different publications, speak with different people, and talk to different audiences through those types of partnerships. Okay, so now we'll get into kind of the good stuff. So, just to reiterate, if you're not sponsoring your local shows or events, chances are your competitors are. So this is a market you really, really want to be in because being absent from these spaces can kind of make your dealership feel a little less invested in the local ag community. On the flip side, however, if you are, visible in these areas, it positions you as a market leader. It allows, again, just people to connect with your dealership on a different level. And again, people are going to feel comfortable coming in when they've seen a smiling face. They're going to want to talk to them in the dealership for different things as well. So these are kind of just different opportunities and things like that when we're looking at sponsoring. You can do things as simply as having a booth. So having maybe a couple of pieces of equipment to showcase, having your sales guys out there offering, maybe branded swag or refreshments or things like that. You can also do something at bigger farm shows with live demos. So, showcase your equipment in real working conditions so that people can kind of get behind the wheel, test it out, feel good about it, and then kind of make their sales decision from there. Again, you can highlight new features or time-saving functions. Of course, farmers look at their return on investment. And so if there are, pieces on, each piece of equipment that can kind of help them with the ROI, they're going to be more likely, again, to kind of stop in and make a sale that way. We also have education sessions. So sponsoring a workshop or expert talk, this is really where those local partnerships come in with like local community colleges or colleges in the area. So maybe you have, one of your sales guys going in and talking to the students. Maybe you have them actually come into your dealership and tour it. Maybe you have your service guys come in and kind of showcase, what they do, how they do it, that type of thing. But just really, again, it's not so like, here's our tractor or here's our piece of equipment, come and buy it. It's really building those relationships and building those connections within the community on a different level, so that, again, it doesn't feel so in your face salesy. It's actually genuinely making those connections. And then also hospitality zones. So I know, again, a few of our dealerships here do this. So branded tents, food areas. I know there's coffee. I know at one farm show there was a booth giving away whiskey shots. So again, kind of meeting your audience where they're at, and knowing, what they're going to engage with and what they're going to remember. So you want to be sure that you're in a, high visibility area, include signage, QR codes, giveaways. Those again are the things people are going to remember. And if they're branded, even better. Oops. Okay, so we will now look at kind of how to evaluate sponsorships. I know you guys all get a ton of, requests and things like that to sponsor different things, to be a part of different farm shows and events and things like that. So just really looking at high level, what you should be looking at when you're evaluating whether or not this is a good idea for you and your sponsorship. So really starting out, look at, does the event reach your target customer? So number one, figuring out who your target customer is, and then figuring out, are they going to be here? So if it's a local street fair, probably not the best use of your time and dollars, because it's probably going to be a more wide array of people. But if it's, maybe it's a local baseball game where you are sponsoring one game, and then, you have a Massey out there dragging the field, and you're giving away specific giveaways at your, at your tent as people walk into the gates. So looking at things like that, will it reach your target customer? If it is yes, then looking at, are you going to be the only dealership there? So obviously you don't want to look at, sponsorships or things like that where you have competitors there, because it's just going to feel, your visibility is going to be really diluted in the industry. So making sure that you're an exclusive sponsor, making sure that you're the only one there of your competitors, and then, taking it from there. So one thing to keep in mind is it's better to be the only booth at a small event than the 15th booth at a big one. So looking again, just evaluating your competitors, where you are, and how you're going to go there. So of course, if you looking at too, if there's a clear benefit or measurable outcome. So setting your key performance indicators or your goals. So what does success look like for you? And will this farm show be able to give you that? So, are you going to get leads from this? Are you going to get real-time conversations? Is there going to be a lot of foot traffic? Are you going to be able to put signage up? Is there going to be a lot of community engagement there? So make sure that you have a way to kind of track these types of things. Otherwise, there's really no way to kind of evaluate your return. So I would say don't just sponsor things because you've always done it. Make sure that it actually makes sense for you and your dealership nowadays, and put the money where it really makes sense. And then lastly, looking at, will your dealership be seen and remembered? So again, like I said at the top of this, visibility really means more than just a logo on a flyer. Really want to make sure that people are going to interact and engage with your brand. Remember your team, your equipment, and your message. So if those are all kind of talking points and places where they're going to be able to be a part of it, this is a good sponsorship and a good, strong strategic fit. And then just one more thing is that brand presence is good, but brand interaction is even better. So again, the more people that can put faces to your dealership and names to faces and things like that, the better off you're going to be. Okay. So looking at kind of just different ways to win. So building off of that last slide, looking at kind of how to build out what you're going to do. So 2 months before, you're going to want to kind of look at the shows, evaluate what makes sense, what doesn't. Look at putting together some sort of social media presence. So maybe you put together an 8-post or 4-post campaign leading up to the event, letting people know that you're going to be there. Maybe you create an event page. Maybe you sponsor some sort of social media giveaway where you ask people to come to your booth and you have giveaways there. You ask them to post on social media, those types of things. But really looking at kind of choosing the show and then building up to the lineup. So you want to, for pre-event planning, really look at your, again, objectives like we just talked about. Coordinate who's going to be there. If you need brand materials, look at, what giveaways you're going to be giving. So get those, ready. And then also kind of give talking points to your salespeople that are there. So what are the things that you really want to get across at these shows? What makes sense for people to talk about? Is there somebody who's a better fit to talk about these types of things? But really kind of set goals and, make sure people are feeling comfortable when they're coming into these types of events. And then the week of, you kind of want to look at your booth activation. So again, QR codes with giveaways so that you can, have that contact information to follow up afterwards. Maybe you host small coffee chats or product briefings, or you do walkarounds in real time. But just looking at different creative ways to make sure that people are driving traffic to your booth and that they want to be there and engage with you. And then post-show follow-up, of course, collecting those leads, looking at following up within 72 hours with a personal message. So if there's somebody who talked to the person at the booth, make sure that they're the ones following up with them, not just a generic follow-up email, which I know Arturo will get into a little bit here too. Oops, sorry, I keep skipping slides. Okay. So making it worthwhile. So again, looking at your, the ROI. So how are you collecting leads at these shows? Can you scan badges? Are there QR codes where people's information can go into? Those types of things. Train your staff also to ask about qualifying questions. So at farm shows, of course, some people just come to get the giveaways, but make sure that these people are qualified leads when you're following up with them. It's really important to follow up within 48 to 72 hours to make sure that you keep that momentum going. And then also kind of have a team debrief afterwards, see what worked and what didn't at the booth, ask questions that, figure out what questions were asked at the booth, if there needs to be additional training, or what you can do next time at the different booths and things like that. And then also kind of track your return on investment. So again, see if there's any sales that come directly from this show. If people, come into your dealership because they saw your booth at a show, asking them those types of questions. So just kind of collecting that feedback so that, again, you can kind of reevaluate if it's something that makes sense for you the following year, or if your dollars are better spent someplace else. So looking at kind of budget and prioritization. So looking at really spending smart instead of spending big. So, you don't need to be at the biggest show in the area. You want to be really, again, where your target audience is going to be. You want to set a budget and then use it accordingly. So, you are able to also kind of prioritize these high return events and then plan ahead to save. So a lot of shows have, deals where if you sign up at the show now for next year, you're going to get a discount. So looking at those types of things and different ways that you can spend money where you can continue to kind of be at these places and engage with your customers. And then kind of when to walk away. So again, we kind of went through that slide on what makes sense, what doesn't. But if there are shows or sponsorships or asks that really don't have a clear audience or data or deliverables, it's probably not going to make a lot of sense for you to be at. If it's a generic pitch that doesn't really fit your brand or what you're looking for, again, probably not a good fit. And then you also want to look at the sponsorship list. So are there a ton of sponsors that, are direct competitors to you, or that just really doesn't make sense for you to be there? Again, I would kind of walk away and figure out what makes sense for you to be at and why. And then again, I kind of want to just touch on really briefly, influencers. So a little different than sponsorships, but it really is the modern word of mouth these days. So, farmers trust other farmers more than ads. So if there are, people posting about your brand rather than you posting about your brand, people are really going to engage with it and feel connected to it a lot more than you putting out a post specifically about your pieces of equipment. Your influencers really have a niche and loyal audience. So we have a few influencers that we've worked with previously who, again, we just, donate a certain number of hours on a piece of equipment, and then they post about it very organically. It feels real. It feels, it doesn't feel like overly salesy. People really feel connected to it. And so that's really what is important. They can do things like, short walk around videos of your equipment. They can share behind the scenes videos to your dealership or visits to your dealership. They can even demo new tech or tools in the real farm setting. So again, their honest impressions kind of build trust. And when we're looking at influencers too, just thinking, their content lives longer than just one day at a booth. So they're really looking at them as kind of your digital demo team. Where they're always on, always sharing, their content's out there. People can continue to engage with it, day in and day out. So how to partner effectively, just really looking at local voices who are in your area, who are already sharing farm related content, because they're going to be more relatable to your audience. Obviously you wouldn't want to go to a random, travel influencer or something like that. You want to be in the area where your audience already lives. Give your influencers creative freedom, but make sure that you provide direction for them, as in what should they highlight, what matters to your customers, that type of thing. And then you also want to make sure that you're tracking engagement. So tracking views on social media, tracking comments, messages, shares, things like that, not just simply how many eyes are seeing your content or seeing the influencer's content. The best partnerships really feel like a conversation and not just an ad read. So just keeping that in mind as well. And then lastly, your audience mismatch. So, looking at this, there might be a big egg influencer in Canada, but it's not going to help if your dealership is located in the Midwest. So looking at, visibility, where they're located, what their audience is, that type of thing. You also want to make sure that it doesn't feel too scripted because it breaks the trust of the farmer as well. So just keeping in mind that you're not buying an ad, you're building a relationship. So make sure that you are treating it that way. And then lastly, looking at starting small. So you don't have to, go to the biggest farm show in the region and attack it from there. Start with smaller sponsorships and partnerships, and that really align with you, your values, your goals. And then make sure you're doing what matters and what aligns with your dealership and your values and that type of thing. So, looking at this is whether you're sponsoring a 10-person FFA dinner or you're looking at a, 10,000 person egg show. The goal is still the same. It's to get visibility, build that trust, and make sure your dealership is relevant. So again, just finding ways to encourage action and track your ROI on these types of things. And with that, I will send it over to Arturo.
Thanks, Chelsea. So yeah, right now I'll be just kind of reviewing and just going through on what to do with leads once you're done with the trade show, and even what to do while you're at the trade show. So why email follow-ups matter, how fast you should be reaching out to them after the trade show. Essentially just high-level goal: nurture, convert, and retain. So what to do with leads? The first box here, we talk about removing duplicates. Sometimes we can be in the habit of just inviting some of the people or going to trade shows where we've already interacted with certain customers before. And so when we're talking about new leads, I think it's good to just kind of keep everything clean. by removing duplicates, making sure that people don't get too excited when they're adding their email into the forms that we set up. And so I've definitely been a victim of adding some emails that aren't fully emails. And so just making sure that we're delivering to emails that currently exist. There are tools out there, whether once you're done collecting all your emails, there are tools out there where you can put these emails up against this tool, and it should showcase what emails are real and what emails aren't, just in case some people forget or miss a symbol or another letter in there. And so then with that too is segmenting by interest. A lot of times we have different interests at booth, whether someone comes in to look for a specific machine or an accessory or what have you. And so I think delivering content to them once we leave the trade show would be good, just to kind of segment out and keep that personalized for their experience. And then also, this one's a little bit of a little cherry on top. If you're able to also add the job title on this form that you have created, perhaps not as a required field, but it could be that some companies are a little bit smaller and you might be talking to the CEO when a lot of the times we think we might be talking to just the marketer in the group. And I think this pertains a lot to just communication within these emails on how to word them specifically, because we don't want to say something wrong the lines like, hey, reach out to your leadership or reach out to the CEO, when we might be indeed talking to the CEO. So just kind of keep things a little bit more generic. And if we have their names and or titles, I think that could be beneficial. And then just regions. We obviously don't want to be showcasing some of our winter accessories or winter machines down in somewhere in Florida or something like that. And so that's always beneficial as well. So we just keep that clean on how we deliver the emails to some of our contacts. And so then whenever you have everything ready to go, just again, make sure that you always tag and tag appropriately. I've definitely worked with other people and other clients where they have some of the same names where like trade show, summer trade show, but they don't have like a year posted in there or the type of season or quarter. And so it's just something to keep in mind to keep things clean and just make your job and life a little bit easier. So we're going to talk about now just the follow-up cadence. Chelsea did bring this up a little bit in her presentation. So just again, high level, what something would look like once you have those contacts is day 1 to 2, say thank you within that first email. Also give them a little bit about who you are, and then also set the cadence for how much you'll be emailing them, whether it be a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter or even a quarterly newsletter. But I think setting expectation is pretty important so they can kind of see if they'll need to be looking at their email every day or every week or what have you. And then they signed up for a reason. So let's give them some sort of resource, whether that be a PDF, case study, or just something else. And then around the data, day 4 to 6, a little bit more in depth in terms of either the product or service. Again, if we had created that form since the beginning of segmenting out what they're interested in, I think this would be also very valuable instead of having them go through a certain journey where, well, I was more interested in this other product. I don't really want to see accessories or vice versa. And so try to base it on some of the interests that they initially signed up for. And if they just didn't have any interest in anything at all, then we can just run them through a more generic journey. And so then around the week 2, again, proof. Chelsea also had this on her presentation. So some social proof or a testimonial. People do resonate a lot more with hearing that word of mouth from other people also using these products or services versus just the brand highlighting that product or service. And then by week 3, I think they should have already some sort of interest in your brand if they're still engaging. And so we can always suggest a soft nudge in terms of adding a call to action in the emails by either requesting a meeting if they want to get more information or a free demo. And then by week 4, final nudge. So something around the frame of like, don't miss out or limited time offer. I think urgency when it comes to marketing is pretty powerful, especially around that time when you're not getting much engagement from some of the contacts. And then with that, I added a line down here where it says use personalization. Again, this is, if you have that information, let's use it. I mean, also, if you have them cook it in some way where you can see the last 4 items that they viewed on your website, or if they've been looking at an item for a while now, perhaps let's showcase that item to them. And these are all just tips and tricks on how you could just better convert them or keep them interested in your products or service. And then, so be prepared for the trade show. As we had both mentioned, you want to hit up the contacts pretty soon after with the outreach of saying thank you, who your brand was and all that stuff. And so have all these templates or journeys, or however you're reaching out to them, have it all ready and tested, preloaded in the CRM or some of the other tools that you have using. And also train booth staff to collect clean data. Again, I think going back to creating the correct sign-up form, I mean, just as a bare minimum, you would want first name, last name, email, and then some other items like job title, region. I think that would be great. And so, and then the last one would be flag any hot leads. If you've been talking to someone at a booth for a good 35 minutes about certain products and they just really seem fired up, jot their name down, reach out to them personally to make it more of a personal connection. I think that would go a long ways versus just the people coming by to pick up some totes and then just going back to the next booth. That's definitely been me. Just this year alone, I think I have around like almost 10 totes in the big tote guys. So yeah. And then just some email best practices. Use clear sender name. We do want to stray away from any emails that start with info at. Email service providers are getting a little bit smarter with identifying some of these emails, and it is a little bit harder for this kind of email to enter into the inbox. And so because the email service providers, they think this is more of either like a bot or something a little bit more generic where it's not going someone to specifically to someone's a specific inbox. And so their guess is that they probably won't engage with this email. And if they do, it might be a few days later. And so if you can use something a little bit more specific to someone, I think that would go a long ways. And then also just kind of keeping subject lines concise. I know we want to say everything in the subject line sometimes, but we have about 3 seconds to catch people's eyes whenever we reach the inbox. And so let's make it punchy, to the point, and try to get them to open that email. And then also clear call to action in the emails. I've seen emails where they'll have 2 or 3 call to actions to different locations. And so we want to kind of guide their eyes, whether it be a zigzag formation with like title, image, quick little content, and then perhaps a call to action right away. And so kind of want to guide their eyes when we're also creating those emails. And so then lastly for this slide, it's mobile first. I mean, have the stat up here where it says 70% of opens will be mobile. And so one thing that comes to mind right away is we sometimes will have images that have copy on them already. And so if you can't see that on your mobile device, odds are that other people won't be able to see that when creating some of these tests. And so let's kind of stray away from that. Unless it's like 1 or 2 words, I think that would be okay. Yeah, mobile, yeah, let's optimize for that. And then just some metrics to watch out. These aren't set in stone. They do vary based on contact list, contact health, how long you've been reaching out to some of these contacts as well. I mean, as a marketer, we always say it depends, right? And so it really just depends. For open rate, I would say that 20 to 30% is pretty strong. However, we do also want to keep in mind with the AppMail privacy that says, regardless of if someone receives an email within an Apple device, Apple will deem that as opened. And so we might see a skewed percentage. The industry right now is saying that it's typically around 10 to 15% skewed. And so just kind of keep that in mind. And then for click rate, I think anything above a 2% is phenomenal. However, when we're talking about contact list sizes of over 100,000, I think around the range of like 1% or 1.5% is also great. So anything above is just, it's awesome. They really want to engage with you. And so at that point, let's think about how we build these emails a little bit better to perhaps give them that call to action a little bit sooner in the email. They might want to convert. And then also just let's keep attention to the responses, any meeting requests. If you're getting direct messages to the email saying like, hey, could we request a demo or something like that? So let's keep an eye on that as well. And so then for unsubscribe rates, I think anything less than 1% is great. It's awesome. When you start to see a little bit over 1% consistently, then we might need to look into it to see what's going on. Perhaps your email is a little bit too big, or they're not as eligible as we would want them to, or perhaps the content may not be enough. So maybe we might need to add some more content in there. And then just to kind of recap a little bit, recommendations just to kind of keep everything in tune is prioritize the speed and how fast you're reaching out to them, the relevance. So with that, if you have that segmentation, use it. I'm sure they would appreciate it quite a bit. And then automate where possible, but just don't lose that human touch. I think with AI just kind of coming more into the marketing world, we'll try to use a little bit more to automate things, but whenever it comes to writing the content or just even doing some outreach, just to make sure that we just still try to keep it genuine, but that will also come with like the segmentation instead of just kind of blasting out just one email for everyone. So keep that in mind. And most importantly, I mean, think your emails as relationship builders, not just sales pushes, because with anything, the more authentic you can do it, I feel like the more you'd be able to convert people and then keep that relationship, which is more important as well. So with that, I believe that is it. Thank you.
Thank you both. Lots of good information today. With that, we'll open it up to questions. So if you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box and we will answer those questions as they come in. We did have a few questions submitted prior to today's webinar, so I will just go through a few of those while the rest of you are thinking of any questions that you may have. Our first question is for Chelsea. Chelsea, this question is regarding when they have salespeople at their dealership or maybe upper management at their dealership who wants them to sponsor everything from their kids' t-ball games to any other school event that may come from their kids or family members or whoever. How can they best communicate with those people at their dealership as to what is a good sponsorship and why they might be saying no to something?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, again, looking at, like we said, kind of evaluating those sponsorships. So what makes sense for your dealership? what is the return on investment going to be? So maybe you, put together your kind of a spreadsheet on, hey, here are the types of things that we want to sponsor. Here are the types of things that we aren't able to at this point. But keeping that open communication with, especially if it's somebody who works at your dealership as well, keeping that communication open and just letting them know that, you can reevaluate it the next year. But for that year, you have everything, your budget's already allocated. But just again, like I said, keeping that open communication and making sure that you are sponsoring things that actually make sense for you and your dealership. And I know sometimes it's hard to say no, but if you have specific goals and things like that set up, it's going to be easier to, go back to those goals and let people know that you can't sponsor because of XYZ.
I think that flow chart that Chelsea showed early on in the presentation too is a really helpful tool for you all to use when you're explaining to people why or why not you might be sponsoring something. And we will send out these slides in a follow-up email after today's webinar. So if you want to use that flow chart in the future for your own planning, or want to share it with anybody else in your dealership, feel free to do so. The next question I have is for Arturo. Arturo, this question is regarding, they don't have any email tools currently to use to send out emails to their customers. Do you have any recommendations on tools that are easy to use, maybe not super expensive, that they could do some of these emails on their own? I know this is an area that we can support dealers too, but if it's something they want to do it on their own, what would you recommend as far as a tool?
Yeah, so I think it really just depends on the size of the contact list. But if you're new into the space and you just want to start and get your feet wet, I think MailChimp would be good. They do have a lot of drag and drop opportunities there, and they're pretty easy to also authenticate your domains. That's something that the industry is requiring more of. And so it's very, very hands-on. Customer service is great. And so, yeah, that's a MailChimp.
Thank you. This next question is for Chelsea. They are wondering, how do they go about finding an influencer? And then once they find an influencer, how do you know how to pay that influencer or what to pay them?
Yeah, I love this question. So influencers are, I think, there's such a positive, they can be such a positive force for your dealership. I would honestly, again, like Arturo said, kind of leverage either us or leverage if you have somebody on your team who's, a little bit younger and who's pretty steeped in social media. Leverage those types of people to kind of do some research on people within your area. You can even leverage, ChatGPT and those types of things too. But looking at what, different influencers in your area, maybe it's a small hobby farmer that you want to work with, or maybe it's somebody, I know Fendt previously worked with Luke Bryan. So they can be really a wide array of kind of who you're working with, and then base your kind of payout based on that. So if it's a small micro influencer, maybe it is just donating, a piece of CUE equipment to them to work on for, 40 hours or something. Utilizing them for that and then asking them to post about that. Maybe if it's somebody, again, like Luke Bryan level, which obviously, is pretty big, then you're going to have that monetary value as well. But I think just leveraging based on what their audience is, engaging with them in that way too. And then of course, just reaching out to them. Like if you have a couple that you have your eye on, sending them an Instagram message or whatever the platform they're on and asking if they'd be willing to have that conversation with you to kind of just feel them out and see what their ask would be as well.
Thank you. One other thing I just wanted you to touch on quick, Chelsea, back to farm shows. I know we've talked about this before internally, and a lot of times we'll make recommendations to dealers on making sure that they're optimizing the farm shows and leveraging those on their social spaces too. Can you touch briefly on the best way to go about making sure that they're leveraging their coverage that they're getting at the farm show, not just at the show, but then also how do they turn around and communicate that out on their social spaces, and maybe talk a little bit about a smaller dealership who is maybe just local to their community and has one location versus how a larger dealership that has multiple locations over multiple states should leverage that when maybe the farm show is just in one of the states that they work in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, again, putting together kind of a plan or campaign leading up to the event. Maybe you have a specific hashtag you want them to use, or you're asking them to tag you in those photos. I think user-generated content, or UGC as we call it, is such a huge opportunity, especially at these farm shows, because maybe you have, you know, a little photo booth, or maybe you have, you know, like something with the green screen where they have, you know, the tractor behind them, or maybe you ask people to get up on the piece of equipment and take photos and then tag you on social. But really leveraging, I would say, that user generated content at these farm shows is going to be huge, because again, like we talked about, your customers and influencers and things like that are going to be your best kind of word of mouth without you having to overly push sales in that aspect. But I think just, again, engaging with the people, especially at these smaller ones where you have time to really engage with people who are stopping by. You know that when they're coming by to talk to you, they want to be there, they want to talk to you. So, you know, maybe asking them just to take a photo and post on our social media, or maybe it's part of the way. So you have, you know, you're giving away a certain, you know, tchotchke, you know, and then you ask them to post on social media in order to get it. But again, just leveraging in those little aspects are going to be really beneficial.
Great, thank you. I think that's all we have for questions. I haven't seen anything else come through in the chat. We are almost at time here, so if anybody does think of any questions after today's webinar, please feel free to reach out to us here at AGCO Direct. You can email us at ads@agcodirect.com, or you can reach out directly to your AGCO Direct account manager with any questions that you may have, and they can certainly loop in Chelsea or Arturo as it makes sense to help answer any of those questions. And then just one last reminder, the registration for the Dealer Summit does close next Wednesday, and that is capped at 65 dealerships. So if you are interested in that, make sure you go ahead and register. I had put that link in the chat earlier while they were talking. So please feel free to register for that if that's something you are interested in. We're really excited for that event and hope to see as many of you there as possible. Thank you both for your help today, and thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next month.